Hey everybody, welcome to another Primo NUTMEG. This week we have Sezmo. Welcome to the show.
Hey there.
Thanks for being on, man. I've been trying to get you on for a while, and I know you've been very busy, so it's nice to finally have you sit down and be on the show. What have you been up to lately? What have you been so busy with?
Honestly, just work.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part.
What are you doing nowadays? It's like solar panels or something, right?
Yeah, I install solar, like photovoltaic, so electricity producing.
Nice.
Yeah.
You have any free time for any hobbies or anything, or just cranking away at work?
Mostly cranking away at work. I mean, I made a garden for my ma.
Nice.
And
What'd you plant?
Nothing yet, still too cold, but I just started raising some plants from seed, cucumbers, lettuce, that stuff, you know.
Nice. Well, I have to tell you, you're on a very important show because coming back from a little bit of a hiatus, I took a few weeks off because I just started a new job. And this is actually 2 days before my 30th birthday. So this is effectively my birthday episode.
Nice.
So glad to have you on.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's actually, I probably shouldn't have taken that hiatus too because this is Primo NUTMEG number 27. It's our 27th episode. If I hadn't taken that hiatus, this would have been like 30. It would have matched up perfectly, but c'est la vie.
Yeah,
but
you could probably catch it at 40 if you slow down.
Very slowly. One a year.
You know?
Yeah, but I don't know, man. It's weird turning 30. Have you turned 30 yet?
Oh, yeah.
When was that?
December.
Oh, so you've been doing it for a few months now.
Yeah.
What is there any difference?
No, not really.
You don't like start having backaches all of a sudden, or?
Well, I mean, I do have backaches, but it's from work. It's not from age.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's a big psychological thing. Like once you turn 30, you just can't do certain things anymore. Like I can never read a comic book again, or I can never, I don't know, go to a wrestling show, which I actually just did about a week ago.
You should probably do it after you turn 30 too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I definitely noticed that. Maybe not like right as I turn 30, but getting toward this side of the 20s, that I started thinking more about doing stupid things. And climbing on rocks or doing anything where you might get hurt.
You were always doing that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I oftentimes was doing stuff that might get me hurt, and I definitely started doing it smarter with age.
That makes sense. I don't know. You don't think there's any you don't think it's like a big psychological barrier where now that you're 30, you have to really get your life together or do this or do that? Because for me, I don't know, at least leading up to it, I'm still not 30, got 2 days left, but leading up to it, I always was thinking man, I got to get married and have kids or get a real career going or whatever, that type of thing.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way.
Buy a house.
Yeah, I think it's because a lot of people do that, so you feel like that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, whatever you want to do, you should probably get doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we don't have all that much time, and if having kids and a family and stuff is what you want to do, you should probably do it. I don't know if that's what I'll end up doing or not, but for now, I'm just trying to get to the zero debt mark with the whole student loan thing, and
yeah. Well,
once
I got 50 or 60 as my end mark on that.
Once I'm at the zero debt mark, I'm pretty much free, and at that point, I'll have a better idea, hopefully, of where I want to go and what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess more than anything, I'm really kind of surprised too that I made it to 30. All the I don't know, just car accidents and I don't know. Things that have happened to me over the years, kind of surprised. Do you ever feel that way? You're just talking about doing stupid stuff. Do you ever think man, I really should have fallen off that cliff that time?
There's definitely a few events that, I mean, my girlfriend oftentimes says that, news stories will come up if I'm hanging around people she hasn't met yet, friends or whatever, and stories will come up and she'll repeat herself and say, I don't know how you and the people survived to this age. So.
Yeah. I was actually thinking that a lot before my 28th birthday with the whole 27 club. I always thought I was going to die around that time. But as long as I make it the next 2 days, I will be 30.
Yep.
But I don't know. Anyway, as I was mentioning, I went to a wrestling show a few weeks ago. Have you ever been to a wrestling show?
I went when I was a young. So I went with one of our childhood friends. Yeah, I think it was. I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was at the Civic Center, and our seats were not very good, and it was cool.
So it was like a WWF show? It was like
Yeah.
a big time deal?
Yeah.
This was not that, but I have been to those. Do you know what it was? Was it like a Raw or a SmackDown or a pay-per-view?
I don't remember. I was pretty young.
Yeah. Well, I went to this independent show, it's mostly people you've never heard of. Just, guys that are trying to make it into the business, and I don't know, they're, wrestling in gyms and stuff like that. But they typically get a lot of old timers as well who are kind of washed up and don't really have anywhere else to go. I mean, the business is kind of sucks right now, where WWE kind of dominates it. It's kind of like MMA, where UFC is the big thing, and there are other little promotions, but they're not really, that big of a deal. But anyway, at this thing, there was Sting. If you know who he was, the wrestler Sting. He used to wear like the crow face paint.
No.
Lex Luger, remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, he got into like he had an injury where, you remember how muscular he used to be? He used to be like gigantic.
Yeah.
Apparently he was working out and his back muscles got so inflamed that it cut off like the circulation or whatever to his spinal cord, and it like paralyzed him. So now he's in a wheelchair. He lost all his muscle mass, just skin and bones essentially.
Holy cow.
But yeah, he was there. Raven was, Sting, or Sandman was, Gangrel. I don't know if you know who those people were. But
I remember Sandman.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was looking kind of in rough shape too. I mean, he always, was a heavy drinker and stuff even during the show. And he did that too, where he went through the crowd and was pouring beer in everybody's mouths.
Oh, wow.
But before the show, it was a real kind of sad moment. Did you ever see the movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke?
I watched the first like 3/4 of it and then missed the last because I had to bring my girlfriend home. Mm-hmm.
Did you see the part where they're at like an independent show and there's all the old timers who are just kind of being ignored at the tables?
Yeah.
There was a real moment like that where the Sandman was just sitting at a table and just nobody was going up to him. I felt kind of bad. But you know why it is? They charge $30 for autographs. Like,
wow.
I'm not going to, I think he's cool or whatever, but I'm not going to give him $30 for an autograph.
Yeah. I feel like that clientele is not the type that would be able to drop that kind of money, like what, a father buying it for his kid or something?
Yeah, really. And the kid doesn't even know who Sandman is.
Right. What are they going to do with the autograph?
Right.
They're going to forget about it in 10 minutes.
It was an interesting experience, though, because a lot of wrestling nerds. Have you ever been to like any kind of Comic-Con or any sort of thing like that where it's a real,
No,
niche?
I haven't. Well, I have, but not for like comic, like nerdy stuff. I've been to, ice festivals.
What's
for
that?
Ice climbing.
Okay.
And it's just climbing nerds instead of comic book nerds or whatever else. That's about
So what do
it,
they
though.
do at these festivals?
Usually during the day, they do different clinics at local climbing areas where they teach you to climb different ice or mixed ice and rock, whatever. And then at night they do, like a slideshow with some famous climber where they do a presentation of whatever they did that year in some cool country that you wish you went to. And,
Sweet.
Raffles, stuff like that.
Well, you have traveled around. Was it to climb places? Like when you went to Germany, was that to go climbing or was that just to see the country?
It was kind of a mixed bag. My brother had just graduated from Green Mountain College in Poultney, and I figured I would take him on a trip because I had the money to at the time. So we went all over Europe, and climbing was definitely on the agenda. And we did want to go to Ireland and France for climbing specifically, but Germany, we were more shooting for the Black Forest.
Yeah, I definitely want to see that. I'd want to go to anywhere in Europe. I've only ever been to London and Paris, and I was only there for like a few days, so definitely want to go back. So you did go to Ireland, and then you went to like the countryside in France also?
Yeah. So we started in Ireland, Dublin, and then after a few days there of, drinking and enjoying Dublin, we went down to Wicklow County to the Wicklow Way. It was a path that the Southern Irish used in the Irish Civil War.
Sweet.
To kind of like come out of the mountains and attack and then run back into their swampy mountains. kind of like the Green Mountain Boys of Ireland or
Yeah.
whatever. And so we wanted to hike that, and we went down there. We hitchhiked out of Dublin down there and did that. And then we headed to the southern tip to Rossler Harbor and took a ferry through Wales and
Oh, so you're in England too then, or Britain?
yeah, only overnight because our original ferry, the engine, it's kind of a story, but the engine crashed. It didn't work for whatever reason. All these people had to get their tickets refunded and everything, and some worker at the ticket booth had an anxiety attack, but they didn't know what it was. And so everyone's calling out for a doctor, and my brother and I are just standing there not having a clue. Like, no one's answering for the doctor. Like, no one's responding, and there's just this massive line of angry people. So, I was wilderness first aid. My brother was a wilderness first responder. And we said, well, we're not doctors, but we'll do what we can if no one else is going to do anything.
Right.
So they took us to her, and we just got her in like a quiet room and sat her there, and she was fine. But people were really cool about it. Then instead of getting us a ferry to France, which is what we were shooting for, they got us a ferry to Wales, a bus through Wales, and a ferry to France, and gave us each €50 on top of it for
There you go.
helping.
That's something.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
And then you went from France into Germany and then back to the U.S.?
We went from France into Germany, and then we took a train from Germany up to Amsterdam for New Year's,
Sweet.
and then flew over to London for a day, and then to the U.S.
So of all those places, where would you recommend that somebody go?
I think it depends what you're looking for.
Well, just like, adventure or something really different than the U.S., I guess.
They're all pretty different. Ireland is great if you want to go to pubs and drink. They're pretty cool, and they seem pretty friendly toward U.S. people for the most part. There were a few that seemed a little bit hostile about it, but they didn't.
Well, from what I've heard, I kind of made friends recently with this bartender who's from Ireland, and she was telling me that people in Ireland they tend to be kind of more depressed or asshole-ish, whereas in the U.S. people, are a lot more, I guess, friendly or, fake friendly. Like, at least they'll say, hello, how are you?
Right.
She's saying people in Ireland don't really want to be bothered. I don't know if that's what you came across.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't an extremely outgoing bunch for the most part. Again, that's not completely true. Like at night in the pub, a lot of them were pretty lively and friendly.
When they're drunk.
Yeah, it was a friendly, lively time. It was good. And they seemed pretty nice. We got picked up hitchhiking. A lady picked us up, and mind you, we went near Christmas time. So she was Christmas shopping with her little car, and she had this giant dog in the back of the car, and she offers us a ride. And she opened up the back of the car, and it was just nothing but beer. Nothing but beer. And that's when she said, yeah, you'll have to fit your bags in here. Don't mind the booze. She said, I went out to go Christmas shopping, but I hate Christmas. So I just ended up buying a bunch of booze.
Good times.
Yeah, so, we laughed, and we said, yeah, well, we're here, and it's Christmas, so clearly it's not the most important holiday for us either. And she laughed. She said, yeah, if you're under 10, good for you. If you're over 10, get off my list. And she took us back to her house, her and her husband, Monique and Dermot. And her husband was back at the house. They made us tea. She scratched some hash into a rolled cigarette. Very friendly people.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, and they drove us out to where we wanted to be and dropped us off there.
So that is pretty friendly. What about people in France? They get the reputation as kind of being assholes.
In Paris, we came into Paris late at night, and no one would talk to us because I didn't know how to speak French. My brother didn't know how to speak French.
Right.
And nobody would talk to us. We were just trying to find a place to sleep. It was late, and no one cared. One very kind old guy told us that you need to be able to say, I don't speak French, in French, and then they'll talk to you in English. And sure enough, that worked.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was the trick. After that, they would speak to us. The people outside, we went to Fontainebleau to go climbing because there's pretty famous bouldering there, and the people that we met in those areas were pretty friendly. But they were all climbers, so it's kind of a community.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then what about Germany? How are people like there? Are they rude to you or friendly?
No, people were pretty friendly. It was at first kind of hard to tell because when their English is broken and they do have kind of a stern demeanor.
Right.
It was, I wasn't sure. And you kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but being an American abroad, I automatically have that feeling that, like, I might run into some hostility because I'm an American.
Sure. No, I felt that way too.
So, I went into it maybe sensitive, paying extra attention to that sort of thing. But they're overall pretty friendly.
I think that is a real thing, though. I mean, at least at certain times, because when I went to London, that was 2003, and I remember something like a bus driver saying to us, like when he was asking us where we were from, we said we're from the U.S. He said something like, "Well, at least you're not French,"
Yeah, actually, in London was probably where we were treated the worst because we were American. Yeah.
Well, kind of makes sense.
I could see it.
But I dated this girl for a while who she had been stationed in Germany. She was in the Air Force, and she was in Germany for several years. And she said that she loved it there, and she wanted to go back and move there. So I don't know. Do you think of it that way? Like it's some place where you'd want to go back to, or is it like they say, just a place that's nice to visit?
I don't know enough about Germany as far as like the work and all that, but I know that the hiking was awesome, and the mountain regions were beautiful. Living there, owning a farm, something like that, out in the woods would probably be pretty awesome. But I didn't visit any of the big cities in Germany.
Really?
The biggest city we hit was Freiburg.
Well, you went to Amsterdam after that anyway, so that kind of makes sense where you're going to go party somewhere.
Right. So. Yeah.
What was Amsterdam like?
Oh, it was absolutely insane. It was New Year's Eve. And
Jesus.
We took a train into Central Station in Amsterdam on New Year's Eve with no reservations for any kind of lodging. We basically, when we got there, our packs were designed so that the brain of the backpack can come off and be used as like a tiny day bag. So we basically took those and put our essentials in it, and then rented out like lock facilities at the train station to throw our bags in, and because we knew we were going to find a place to stay. And we did try a little bit, found nothing. Everything was just beyond booked. So we stayed up all night and just wandered around and explored it. And it was pretty crazy. There were fireworks being lit off all over the place in the middle of the city.
Nice.
Yeah, there were spots where people had PVC taped to like street signs at an angle with a cap on the bottom side of it, and they were just launching like big fireworks down these alleys and stuff. You'd see women going by with a stroller and like, running across alleys because they didn't want to get hit by some kind of crossfire. But it was pretty neat to watch at about 4 or 5 in the morning. Like right as the dawn light was starting to come up, just this force of street sweepers came out everywhere, these mini ones, but they were everywhere, and all of the debris that was littering everything from all the fireworks just was swept up in a matter of about 2 hours. And
really?
By like 6:30, 7 in the morning, the streets were just spotless again.
Wow.
It was pretty efficient. Neat. Yeah, it was cool.
So is that like the only international vacation you've ever been on, or you've ever gone anywhere else?
I went back to Ireland in 2007.
What made you want to go back?
The landscape, the people, and more hiking. I wanted to head northbound that time from Dublin. Cool.
Did you go into Northern Ireland or just the northern part of the Irish Republic?
We went into Northern Ireland.
Oh, cool.
It was right around the border. It was the Mourne Mountains. That's what we were shooting for.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You didn't see the Giant's Causeway, did you?
No.
I really want to go see that.
I would love to. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about going sometime this year, like in October or something. But I was actually told that they have a bus tour that goes all around the coast, which I imagine would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
That place that you were telling me about, the where they had the pass with the IRA or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Is that on the coast or is that kind of inland?
It's not on the coast, but it's not in the middle of Ireland. If you look at the Wicklow Mountains, they're south of Dublin on the eastern side, and I would say, I don't know how many miles inland they are, but it's not on the coast. The Mourne Mountains are on the coast. I'm pretty sure their slogan up there is like where the mountains meet the sea. So
Isn't Ireland also where it just drops off like into the ocean, or is that England?
I think it's both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think both of them have some pretty.
Yeah, just like the land just ends, and then it's like a 50-foot drop into the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I definitely need to go there at some point. Just a matter of time, I guess. Your brother goes all over, doesn't he? Or is that just in the U.S.? Because I know he was like out in the Southwest for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's all over the U.S. He's been to Europe with me those 2 times, and he went to China twice to do
That's pretty cool.
anthropological stuff through Green Mountain.
Cool.
Yeah, and he's all over the U.S. doing, shovel bum stuff.
Yeah, I spent a summer in Japan. I don't know if I told you that before. But that was a lot of fun because I got to see a good part of the country. Was your brother touring China, or did you just go like specific places?
He went to specific places because they were going with a goal.
Right.
They were going to do work, kind of.
Yeah.
Social work. But I don't remember the first time. The second time he went to the Shanghai province, and I know that. I don't remember where he went the first time. He loved it.
Where would you like to go if you could, like anywhere in the world? Because I was, again, thinking about going different places that I would like to go. And one that I'm really thinking about is Eastern Europe, like Romania or Bulgaria or someplace like that. I think that'd be really badass just to check that out.
Yeah, that would be cool. I worked with a dude from Bosnia at Home Depot years ago, and he showed me pictures of Bosnia that were gorgeous.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely stunning.
Because I figured that would be war-torn. Because that was pretty recent. It was like, what, 20 years ago?
Yeah, well, I mean, what he was showing me was very rural, so
Yeah.
probably not as war-torn as the urban areas.
Right. Is Sarajevo or whatever.
Right. I would love to see Patagonia.
Where is that? That's in South America, right?
South America, yeah. Like the very southern part of Chile and Argentina.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, I'd want to go to the Amazon. Do some ayahuasca in the rainforest or something.
Yeah, right. Talk to Bob or Nick. Those guys did that.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
They toured around South America for a while.
Wow.
And, yeah, and
I didn't know that.
They did the whole ayahuasca thing, and both of them had nothing but good to say about it.
Have you ever done that before?
Nope. I would be curious.
Yeah. I don't know. I've had stuff in the U.S. that, was supposed to be that, but I don't really know. There's no way to know. I'm sure it's a completely different experience, too, when you're there with the Native American shaman who's also doing it and singing songs and all that,
Right.
And there's giant poisonous snakes all around you.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be my worry about traveling to a rainforest. Everything there just wants to poison you.
Have you seen that show Naked and Afraid?
Yeah, I've watched a couple minutes of it when I was visiting my dad.
They're pretty nuts, man. Like, those people get fucked up doing that shit.
Yeah.
They get, like, seriously sunburnt. They get, like, dysentery and stuff like that. Or, just whatever, all kinds of stuff. I saw one clip recently where this chick was sitting next to... They had set up some kind of pot to boil water. So it was like boiling water, and she was like sleeping next to it. So the thing just collapses and just like pours a big, big bowl of boiling water all over her.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
I think she had to get evacuated from that, actually.
I would imagine so. That's a pretty severe injury.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I feel like some of the people they put on those shows, they choose the inexperienced ones, like, for a reason.
I don't think on that one. 'Cause I think that they...
I mean,
It's hard to say. I mean, I don't know what television producers are thinking, but I mean, that kind of show. I mean, you're really putting people in harm's way. Like, they really could die. Like Survivor, you're gonna pick like pretty people because they're gonna be there with all the film crew and like a bunch of other people, and they have all that reward shit laying around or whatever. But they're like dumping a naked man and a naked woman in the middle of the
Are
the
they
jungle.
alone? They don't have a camera crew?
There is a camera crew, but it's like 3 people.
How many people are behind the cameras? I don't know.
I think it's only like 3 people.
Just, because I wonder if the whole Bear Grylls thing, when he was doing his big brave thing and
Yeah.
all the camera tricks, and it turns out he was just staying in a hotel. So
Yeah.
it might not be as real as you think. I don't
suppose.
know. Maybe it is real. I don't know. I don't. Les Stroud is the only one that I think is like 100% legit. Just has his own cameras, backtracking all the time to pick him back up.
You know, he always kind of reminded me of you. I don't know if anybody else has ever told you that.
Well, I honestly thought he looked like my brother.
Really?
Yeah.
There's also, just so you know, this is a very random thing, but have you ever seen the movie Freddy vs. Jason?
Yeah, years ago.
There's an actor in that movie who looks like you. There's like this kid's like having like a nightmare or whatever where he sees his dead brother, and it's like his brother's like laying in a like a tub full of blood. That actor looks just like you, just so you know.
All right.
And you also look like or remind me of Hyde from that 70s show.
You know, I've heard that before.
I don't know, it's just the vibe you give off, man.
I guess it must be.
Speaking of movies, are you gonna go see Batman versus Superman?
Yeah, I'm gonna go see it.
I'm like really on the fence about it. I don't know. I grew up being such a Superman fan. You know, Batman's cool, but just and I was saying this before Star Wars came out. It's most movies that come out now are such shit that like I'm just really really reluctant to go to the theater.
Yeah, I hear you, man. And I don't know how it'll be, but I'm gonna go see it anyway. I'll find out. And even if it's bad, it's worth finding out. Whatever. I don't go to the movies that often. Might as well go for that.
For me, I guess I just despise CGI so much that even if the movie's good or halfway decent, I'm just like hating the CGI the whole time. Like even Deadpool was pretty decent. It was a good movie, so it wasn't bad at all. But you know, it's just like when there's so much CGI, it's kind of hard to focus or really remember it after the fact. You know, it's just like crazy things happening on the screen.
Yeah,
I don't know if you feel that way too.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why Terminator 2 stands such ground.
Definitely.
Like action movies. You watch that movie today,
right?
And it holds up because they did use CGI, but it was like as little as possible. They did everything they could to make it real.
Yeah, Liquid Terminator, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? But besides that,
right? Like everything they could, they did real. Movies these days, it's like, what can we possibly make CGI? How much can we get away with making CGI? It's not like, what can we do to make it awesome, and then what little bits can't we do, and we got to use CGI for it.
And I think that there is a market of people like me or like us who would be really interested to go see movies that are made with puppets and props and all that kind of shit. Like, I think movie studios should make that and pitch it to I don't know if it's millennials or just people who think like me, but I think that there's a sizable market to make money off of.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, for the Batman versus Superman, not only am I worried about the whole CGI thing, but just the dialogue, the story.
Yeah.
And
well, it takes away
story.
from it. I think that the CGI is kind of an excuse to not have to write a good story. It's like, we'll just put all this amazing shit on the screen, so just give us a script. It doesn't really matter how good it is.
Yeah. I hope that's not the case. Well, especially because that fight is iconic.
Right.
If there's a fight between two superheroes that is more iconic, I don't know what it would be, really.
Of course, then there's the whole argument that Batman is just some rich dude as opposed to this godlike alien.
Right. I mean, I think the only thing keeping that fight interesting is Superman's will. He has the will to not kill. And if he didn't have that ability to hold his punches no matter how pissed he is, the fight would be boring. Because even if Batman was holding a boulder of kryptonite, if Superman moved at like Mach 3 toward him, by the time he reached the kryptonite, he would already be blasted through Superman or through Batman. So in
the comics, when we were kids, like 92-ish, I think it was, remember in the comics, Superman gave Batman Lex Luthor's kryptonite ring. And Superman said, like, if I ever go crazy or anything, I start doing bad things, use this to kill me.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
And Batman had files on, like, everyone in the Justice League of how do we stop this person if they go rogue or if they turn or whatever.
Well, remember there was that cartoon in, like, the mid-90s where they met and Superman used his X-ray vision to figure out that Batman was Bruce Wayne. And then Batman put a tracking device on Superman and like followed him back to his apartment and saw that he was Clark Kent.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. And then you have the other issue with this movie of Ben Affleck being Batman. Like,
Yeah. I don't know.
He has been in some good movies, but the amount of shit that he's been in, it's hard to separate him from Geely or, whatever.
Mallrats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he has been in good things. I mean, Dazed and Confused. Yeah.
It was good. Yeah, it was a good movie. I didn't particularly like his character.
Yeah.
But it was a good movie. We'll see. I think that, and if you want to talk about actually being a comic book nerd past 30, watching the Dark Knight Returns, they turned it into a comic book movie. It's an animated movie.
Sweet.
And, that was probably the most badass Batman-Superman conflict. Definitely the darkest anyway.
I haven't seen that one, but I have seen a couple of those new animated movies that they put out, and they actually are really good. There's a lot of really good plot in those.
I gotta say, that one, especially because it's a 2-part movie, and the second part was awesome. I mean, he goes off against the Joker in a way that he never did before, and it's pretty dark and pretty gritty. And then the whole Superman thing is really gritty too. And I don't know if the Batman versus Superman movie can trump the cartoon even. Even the dialogue might be better. I don't know.
Right.
I'll find out. I'm going to go watch it.
When are you going?
I don't know. I promised my girlfriend I'd take her with me.
Mm.
So when that time happens, hopefully in the next couple days.
When we were kids, did you read comic books? I think you did, right?
Yeah.
You were a big Green Lantern fan, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I always liked Batman, Green Lantern.
Hal Jordan or Kyle Rayner?
Hal Jordan.
Mm.
Yeah.
Me too.
Guy Gardner, actually, was always kind of an interesting character.
I know Brandon was always into him. I don't know. I guess I just didn't really see him in enough comics or read enough comics with him in it. But I don't know. Hal Jordan's just such a classic, classic figure. But he's not the original. Who was the original? Alan Scott, right?
Yep, Alan Scott. And he had that cape with the big flared collar.
Yeah. He had purple pants too, didn't he?
I think so, yeah. Classic.
Yeah, it's weird how that happened. Because in the 40s or 50s, superheroes became unpopular. They were a big thing in there was Superman in 38, and then the early 40s, that's when the Flash, the first Flash and the first Green Lantern and Captain America and all these other guys, showed up. And then for whatever reason, kids stopped reading superhero comic books and they started reading cowboy comic books. And I think they were horror comic books were really big for a while. So all those guys faded away. And then in the 60s, when Stan Lee started, writing the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, it got popular again and they brought them all back. That's why you had the new Flash and the new Green Lantern, and they brought Captain America back and all that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a few of them. There was a Marvel Captain Marvel before there was a DC Captain Marvel.
That's not true, actually.
No?
The DC Captain Marvel, the Shazam guy, he was originally that was published by Fawcett City Comics. And then something happened where there was a lawsuit. DC sued them saying that Captain Marvel was too similar to Superman. Because he had the lightning bolt on his chest and it was he kind of looked the same. So they sued them. I don't know if they acquired that company through the lawsuit or something like that. Eventually they got that character and then later brought him back. But then the Marvel Captain Marvel is different. He came about in the 60s. He's like an alien or something, right?
Yeah, it's some weird thing.
Yeah.
But I thought the Marvel Captain Marvel was before the Shazam Captain Marvel existed.
No, because that was 60s. The DC / Fawcett City guy was 40s. We'll look it up.
Yeah, I'm curious now.
But the Marvel one, there's been several incarnations because it's a weird character where he latches on to different people. Because there was a female one too, right? And in fact, I think they're making a movie where Ronda Rousey is supposed to be Captain Marvel.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, she'd probably be suited for it as far as personality goes. Anyway.
They're also remaking Roadhouse. I don't know if you heard about that.
Oh, wow.
They're remaking Roadhouse, and Ronda Rousey is going to be Patrick Swayze's character. Or
Really?
Kurt Russell, whichever one it was. Which one is it? I forget. I got them confused all the time.
It doesn't matter.
They look very similar, don't they? Patrick Swayze and Kurt Russell.
I've confused the two of them on a regular basis. Well, not on a regular basis because I don't talk about them that much. But.
All right. Well, my beer is empty. Do you want to take a break and then maybe come back and talk some politics for a while?
Yeah, sure.
All right. We'll be right back. By the way, Steve, did you do something to get rid of the ghost? No? No. We have a ghost on the show, so he may pop in at some point.
Oh, nice.
He likes to disrupt the show. We'll see if that happens. So something that I like to do on the show, or that I have been doing since we started, just because we're in an election year, is just kind of talk about the state of the race. Because I haven't done this in a while, a lot of things have changed over the past month. So Jeb Bush, who was supposed to be the big preordained Republican nominee, he dropped out. Marco Rubio, who kind of took his place, he also dropped out. And now the Republican race is pretty much down to Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, which is sort of strange. And then Kasich is also in there, which is fucking bizarre because when the shit started with 17 candidates, you know, if you said it was going to be down to those three, I don't think anybody would believe you. But what's your take on the Republican race, at least? What do you think about Donald Trump and Ted Cruz?
Well, I mean, with Ted Cruz, I'm not religious, so that doesn't really sway me. If anything, picking religion over science to me is not like an attractant, you know? Because I went to school for natural resources, so when someone ignores science and says, you know, everything's going to be fine just because, it's kind of, I don't know, it irks me a little, I guess.
Well, some people would say, too, that he might not actually believe that. I mean, that guy's Princeton educated. He's married to someone who worked at Goldman Sachs or still does, or, you know, he he might not necessarily believe that, much like Donald Trump, I think. I mean, all that race baiting type stuff, I don't really think that Trump believes, or, you know, I don't think he's really into it as much as his supporters might think he is.
No, I mean, he might be a racist dude. I wouldn't doubt that he is a racist dude.
Okay.
But I think he pushes it extra just to get the attention.
We're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it and it just got 10 feet higher. Like, that's just really playing to the base, or what he thinks the base is.
Right. It gets attention. You know, and it gets attention from the people that aren't going to be voting for Bernie, you know.
Right.
Because Bernie supporters are seldom going to be pro let's build a wall. There's some.
Well, you know, there actually, at least a few months back, there were people who were saying that it was between Trump and Sanders for them. I'm not necessarily one of those people, but I've heard that sentiment expressed, or, you know, there's even polls out there where those people seem to get a lot of support.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that there's a big backlash against the powers that be also, you know, where people are looking for kind of fringe candidates.
Right. They don't want the same regime.
Right.
And I guess Bernie fits that. I mean, granted, he is like a career politician.
Sure.
He's not as typical a career politician as what we've had as options, I guess, for the past few elections.
Yeah, I've been really struggling with the Bernie Sanders thing. Because, you know, I've been to events, I've had people on this show who campaigned for him. I actually met him, but like I've also, you know, I've done a lot of research into where he's been on certain issues, and it's really back and forth. Like, he'll be against the Iraq War, but then he'll vote to fund it, and, you know, he'll talk down to the head of the Federal Reserve, but then his solution is to make the Federal Reserve bigger and more stronger. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's really kind of back and forth for me, where I'm on the fence. I think I'm at the point now, actually, where I'd be willing to vote for him in the primary, just to, you know, try to stop Hillary from being the nominee, just because she's, you know, such a horrible monstrosity candidate.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Who just perfectly represents the establishment. You know, I'd be willing to vote for him in the primary, but I couldn't vote for him in the general.
No, I don't think. I couldn't vote for him. I don't think I could vote for Trump.
Yeah. No, I couldn't vote for Trump either.
I mean,
I was sympathetic to Trump at the beginning. Like, you when it was kind of funny and outlandish, and he honestly, some of his foreign policy does, it's not that bad. He talks about we shouldn't be overthrowing Assad, and there was a debate that they did in South Carolina when he was like saying all these things about how Bush lied to get us into Iraq, and it was a huge mistake, and the crowd was booing him. Like, wow, he's like actually making sense, and this fucking crowd is booing him. But
I think his anti-interventionalist kind of idea is one that's, I guess, one of his better ideas.
Right. And I mean, I like that about Trump, that one thing, but just, I don't know, man, all the race baiting and like the violence at the rallies, people getting beat up, and it's just, I don't know. What his movement is becoming is kind of a scary thing, or I don't want to associate myself with it at all.
Right, and it might even be the case that it's not what he would want as a president, but he knows this is going to get him, into the presidency, so he's just rolling with it. I don't know.
Right.
And it's weird because he does come out with these, curveball things every now and again where it sounds reasonable.
Right.
And it's so weird at this point to hear him say something reasonable. It just stands out. When he was talking about Supreme Court justice nominees, and he was saying he would nominate, who was it? Napolitano.
Yeah, that's
Napolitano,
cool.
which I thought,
definitely go with that.
Hey, that's not bad. And it's like, man, to hear Donald Trump say that, I'm like, you want to condemn the guy, but every now and again, there's one of those gems you hear, and you're like, well, that's a decent idea.
He's just such. You don't know what the hell it's going to be. Like, I have no idea what his administration would be like. It could be fucking fascism, or it could not be. I don't know.
And he's been deceptive about everything he does forever.
Yeah,
he's used media to portray whatever image of him he wanted portrayed for the most part for a couple decades now.
So that's what it is. It's kind of like playing Russian roulette with the country. Like,
yeah,
who knows? We'll find out, I guess.
What's scary is that people are at the point where they're like, you know what? That's not so bad compared to the alternative. Let's put a bullet in the chamber and give it a spin.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say that too, or when it comes down to Trump and Hillary, if that's the choice, if you want to have certainty of a path that has proven destructive and a path where you don't really know, it could be anything, then
yeah.
But I don't know. I imagine I'm going to be voting third party for the general. I just I can't get behind either of those, or even Bernie. Honestly, I couldn't really. I'd rather vote for the Libertarian candidate.
Yeah, I think I would. I think I would feel the same way. Because I mean, Bernie's got good intentions. I think. I think he does have good intentions. Although he does seem to be kind of in favor of intervention in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Not with Islam necessarily. Not with Israel necessarily. But it seems like you said with Iraq, he was he's not about being in Iraq, but he's about funding being in Iraq, which doesn't make sense.
Other things too. He supported Obama when he said he wanted to keep troops in Afghanistan, and he's supported drone bombing and I believe bombing Libya and Syria also. But then, again, I was kind of torn about this whole thing where if you think about how influential Hillary has been in, constructing and driving these policies as opposed to just going, somebody who's might have gone along with it to some extent. I mean, isn't she more culpable, and isn't his crime a little more forgivable than hers? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, probably. But at the same time, if he had an opportunity to vote no and say, well, I guess actually his vote, it's not even on him, really, right? It's on the people he represents. If the people were pro-Iraq, then whether or not he personally believes we should be there, he should vote the way his people tell him to, right? So I don't know how that works, because, isn't that the system that we have? Like, we voice our opinion to our representative, and then our representative represents us.
I've seen town halls, man, where people are calling him out for supporting military aid to Israel or supporting bombing Kosovo. I think that was really one of the first things that he kind of did that threw people off for the most part was when he decided to back bombing Kosovo. Because, dude, he was against the fucking Persian Gulf War back in like 91. He was against that shit. There's speeches of, that he gave on the floor of the House of Representatives saying what a bad thing it was. But I don't know. Bernie Sanders, I have to say, is probably the one politician who I've been most torn over. Like there's either people like Ron Paul or Ralph Nader or Dennis Kucinich where like, yeah, I understand where they're coming from. I'm pretty much with them. Or, then there's the Hillary Clinton, George W. Bush crowd. Like, man, like these people are fucking pure evil. But Bernie Sanders, I don't know. He's really right on the point where I'm not sure if I could support them or not. Again, I would support him in the primary and not in the general. I think that's kind of where I've personally resolved myself on the matter.
Yeah, well, because he does have some good ideas, and like I said, I think he has good intentions, but I don't know how that would play out in practice as opposed to theory. And I don't know. One of the issues too is like I'm not a big fan of government. I don't think it works that well. At least not any of the ones that we've tried so far, anyway. And so I don't know if more government is going to make things better.
So. One reason I'm happy to have you on the show is because I kind of want to talk to you about this whole like political philosophy type thing or like semantics. And I even posted something on Facebook recently about, should we be using terms like capitalism and socialism or liberalism and conservatism? I mean, I remember, I have to tell you, do you remember when we used to go to Houlihan's with Shane?
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time we were there. And you said something about like these capitalist fuckers or something like that. And at the time, like I was, kind of in like an Ayn Rand mode. So it like kind of hit me the wrong way. But like that's another thing about these words and this terminology and the kind of like thinking about left and right. I mean, I think it's very unfortunate because it kind of confuses things to a certain degree. Wouldn't you agree? Like when people say socialism, for me now, like I get kind of if people talk down about socialism or capitalism, I get kind of pissed off because I'm like, well, there are libertarian, trends in both. They're both kind of, they can be representative of freedom or they can be representative of government. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of methods of governing look good on paper. And so there's bright sides to all kinds of stuff. Socialism, capitalism, they all have benefits on paper. But when you put them into practice, there's that one, fundamental flaw of human involvement. And that's when it just goes off the rails. And, it takes only how much time?
Well, it's because I think you have these bad people who, want to motivate all these good, well-meaning people into doing something horrible, into giving them powers so they can pillage the planet,
Right, and we put these different labels on these different types of government, but they all end with the same thing, it seems, right? Just a group of people in power controlling a bunch of people that don't have as much power. And granted, they're different. I'm not trying to say that North Korea is the same as America is the same as whatever else. Like they are different, and to different degrees they oppress or don't oppress, and there are certain liberties or aren't liberties. But I don't know, it seems like governments in general have failed at doing their job so far.
I agree. And I think that's what sucks about the election and about electoral politics is that you get kind of maneuvered into supporting these two parties or thinking about politics in these two different ways, it seems.
Yeah. Well, and people now, too, though, are getting like super focused on splitting hairs about like, well, what policy is socialist and what policy? Well, this policy would be socialist, but no, it's capitalist. And it's not like
right. That's something that enrages me sometimes when I see Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party kind of complaining about the same thing and calling the system two different names. Like it's not really capitalism. It's not really socialism. Or what they had intended those. What people had intended those to be. Because if you read like Ayn Rand or Murray Rothbard or any of these people who say capitalism means a free market. We don't really have a free market.
No.
Or if you're there are libertarian socialists too. I mean, there are people that like the Paris Commune back in the 19th century who said like that's emblematic of socialism. Like that wasn't really a government. That was just like people working together. Like then like that's what socialism or communism meant to them, is just like human beings without any kind of hierarchy working together collectively.
More of a volunteerist community.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool when it can actually work.
Yeah.
I mean, again, volunteerism can fail. Anarchy can fail. Any of it can fail because it involves humans. That's the fatal error. You put humans into operate this system, and all of a sudden, there's corruption everywhere.
Yeah.
Systemically.
Yeah. But I guess the more you legalize the use of force, the worse it is, the more legal
absolutely.
authority you give to people with guns to kidnap you and throw you into a cage.
Which is why I'm not so big on government. The less government, the less that. And I'm torn because I am someone who is a fan of the environment. I spend a lot of time, used to spend a lot of time in the natural world. And, certain regulations, they should exist. If they don't, we're going to deplete what we need to survive as a species. And some people are so fucking stupid that they will deplete this for money that they can't take with them past the grave, and they'll wreck generations worth of survival. And so it's like, how do we do something about that without government? Can we organize as a group of people strongly enough to actually put a halt to that without using government legislation? Because the legislation doesn't seem to be working. There's just a million loopholes, and if you make enough money in profit, you can pay them enough money to not have to worry about it.
Government does actively help these big multinational polluters too. I mean, they give oil subsidies, and even when they try to regulate them, or when they are supposed to be regulating them, like after Exxon Valdez, remember that Exxon Valdez spill back in like 1990 or whatever, Congress passed some kind of law that was supposed to be like a backlash. So it was supposed to be regulating the oil industry after that. But part of that bill was capping the responsibility, the monetary payments that an oil company would have to pay out after an oil spill.
Right.
It was like $75 million or something like that, where that was like the maximum that they would have to pay if something catastrophic happened, which is ridiculous because why would you do that? But a lot of people were saying like that's what figured into the BP oil spill, was that these companies now kind of have this figure like, well, worst case scenario, our liabilities are capped at this dollar figure, so run that into our calculations.
Well, and that's it. If you make enough money as a company, you just buy your way through the legislature, and it doesn't become an issue for you. So that's why, again, government fails to do its job.
Right. So again, I mean, I think like a grassroots initiative would be better. I mean, if you had workers striking, if you had consumers, boycotting, if you had people out there protesting, like that, I think is more of it's going to have more of a real impact than some bill going through Congress that nobody reads.
Absolutely.
That's written by BP.
Yeah, I think it's super important for people to get more involved. Everyone wants the government to take care of everything for them. No one wants to actually have to do anything anymore.
Right.
It's totally doable. And like people, they bitch about Walmart and all their tax subsidies and all this stuff. Well, stop shopping there. You know, if you're unhappy with Walmart's, if you just stop shopping there, they'll go away. Starve the beast. It's that easy.
And I also think labor movement is important. I think there should be unions. I think people should strike.
Oh yeah.
I guess people say that unions now are corrupt, but I still think that the labor movement is an important part of democracy.
And they are corrupt. But find me an organization that isn't. But it's important for people to stand up and know their value, And of course there's so many arguments about that, like the whole minimum wage thing.
I'm against that personally because
financially it doesn't make sense.
I think from a monetary perspective, because if it doesn't drive up inflation directly, it becomes negated by inflation. Because, I mean, why does the minimum wage have to go up? If we have a minimum wage, okay, why is it going up? Why do we need more money? It's because inflation is destroying the value of your money.
Right.
Which is another thing that fucking pisses me off about politics, because nobody ever talks about the Federal Reserve, the thing that creates money.
Yeah, no,
Everybody says
never.
follow the money, but they actually don't want to go to look at the source of money, which is these fucking central bankers.
No one wants to talk about the Federal Reserve. They have immunity.
I'd be interested. That would be the one cool thing about a Trump presidency, because I don't really know where he stands on the Federal Reserve. Like, if he did just like an Andrew Jackson thing, just like, we're going to abolish this fucking bank, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Stonewall was pretty brave with that, but it didn't work forever. It worked for like...
It wasn't Stonewall Jackson. Andrew Jackson.
Oh, Andrew, that's right.
Old Hickory.
Yeah. Oh, what a great name. Yeah, like, I mean, that didn't work forever, right? Like, the banks came back, like, after his presidency. Didn't they end up re-existing?
It was several years later. After he abolished it, they call it the free banking period. And then during the Civil War, actually, that's when the government started, like, printing its own money, because it needed to finance the war.
Yeah.
And then in the last quarter of the 19th century, actually, it was a big political debate about whether money would be backed by gold alone or by gold and silver, which is how the founders had originally intended it. It was supposed to be two competing currencies. It was supposed to be gold and silver. And that's actually like the big difference between the Republicans and the Democrats at the end of the 19th century. The Democrats were for free silver. They were for a bimetallic standard, where Republicans were really just for a gold standard. Because silver was kind of the money of the people. It was what a lot of more people, farmers would tend to have, would be silver. And, the rich people would tend to just have gold alone.
Okay.
But actually, something that's really cool, The Wizard of Oz, the original book, The Wizard of Oz, is about the 1896 election, and which was completely about monetary policy. So, like, a lot of things in that book are kind of translate over to that. Like, the yellow brick road is supposed to represent gold. Dorothy's slippers originally in the book weren't ruby; they were silver. They were silver slippers, so it was supposed to represent this bimetallic standard. And like, all the characters are supposed to represent different parts of society. Like, the Tin Man was supposed to represent industrial workers. The Scarecrow was supposed to represent farmers. The Cowardly Lion was supposed to be William Jennings Bryan, who was the Democratic nominee that year. And I think that the witches were supposed to be like J.P. Morgan and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's if you look into it a little bit, there was some big essay written about it in the 60s, like completely explaining it, breaking it down. So I'd encourage you to look into that.
Nice.
But it's funny how back then that was what elections were about, was about monetary policy. And now that's like, nobody talks about that at all. Or like, I remember Ted Cruz did actually bring up the gold standard in one of the debates. And then like immediately there was like a backlash from the corporate media about what a terrible idea that would be. So,
Yeah. What a terrible idea to make your money backed by something real.
Right.
Of course, I mean, just the idea, even that's strange to me. Like, the idea of applying value to something that has no intrinsic value.
Right.
And like, gold does have value as conductive material. It's awesome for, any kind of computing technology, any stuff like that. It's great. I mean, I don't know. Steve might even have them in these wires here.
Sure.
So it does have its purposes, but the reason it's worth so much is because we decided to say it's worth so much.
Well, I've been kind of interested in finding out why that is. Because when I went to Japan, for example, when I was in Kyoto, there's these two big temples there. There's Jinkokuji and Kinkokuji. There's the silver temple and the golden temple. And they're supposed to represent this god and the goddess. There's the goddess of the sun and the god of the moon, and they associated gold with the sun and silver with the moon, which is really kind of weird. But then, like, you read about all this other shit, like in the Anunnaki, who like were supposed to be these people that like these like angelic beings who were like collecting gold and stuff. Like, it's very strange. I don't know. I don't really buy into conspiracy theories too much, but like that kind of shit is just very interesting to me. Where you talk about like why are these two minerals supposed to be so important to us, and like there's all these kind of there's this mythology around it and shit. It's just strange.
It is strange. I mean, it can't just be that it's shiny, right? Is that it? Like, it's just shiny, and that's why we.
Well, I mean, it could be.
That's great.
I mean, people just needed a medium of exchange because, again, I mean, barter only is going to take you so far,
right?
You know, it's difficult in a market. You got to go try to find somebody who A has what you want and B will trade at a certain exchange rate that you agree with. You know,
so. Yeah, and you can't necessarily find someone that has what you want and wants what you have.
Right. Exactly. Know? You know, and you got to transport and shit. Actually, that's where banking really started. Was back in the Crusades, where the Knights Templar were like cashing in stuff that people had when they'd go off to pillage, and they would like pay them back when they got home or something.
Huh, no kidding.
But I don't know. I think that we do need money. I think that I think we need to exchange something that we can use to exchange value. But does the government necessarily need to decide what it is and what the value is? It's going to be backed by the government,
right? It's a good question. And I mean, again, as soon as you involve government, there's going to be perversion.
Well, I mean, if you look at gold and silver, they do have a price on the market. So, like, an ounce of gold costs like $1,200 or something, and like that's just the value that like people decide for it to be. Like, a dollar is really decided by the central bank. Like, however much they want to print, like that's what the value of the dollar is going to be.
Yeah,
for the most part. So, I think that's really what the problem is the government or these central bankers empowered by the government. You know, them having that kind of determination over the market.
Yeah. Well, and people do have some say in that too, but it takes more work. Again, the more people, not that it's easy, but the more people do trade back and forth with goods not involving money, the less value money has.
Well, they can create their own money too. I heard about this thing called Berkshires, which is up in Massachusetts, where this community kind of created their own money. And they exchange it at local stores and stuff. And then also, I mean, you have cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Litecoin and all that shit.
Yeah, Bitcoin's interesting. My stepbrother was into that. He was talking about it last time. He's huge into, like, he white hacks for some company down in Texas. It's what he does. And so he used a lot of terminology that I didn't even begin to understand. And he was talking, it sounded pretty interesting, though. You know, the concept that you can just dig around and find currency that does hold value.
It's like combinations of numbers or something, right?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it basically sounds to me like you're going mining for gold, but you don't get as dirty. You don't risk getting eaten by machinery. And
well, another thing that's cool about Bitcoin, I mean, I guess we'll see. I don't know how successful they are at the moment. I think it's kind of failing. But one thing that is interesting is it's a finite amount. So, like, when you talk about... Hey, now. When you talk about like gold or silver, like nobody really knows how much there is. Like you keep digging it out of the earth, and it keeps the amount in circulation keeps increasing.
Right.
But Bitcoin, I think like there's only so many calculations that can be done. Like there's a definitive amount of this is how much money there is. I don't know if that's ever existed before. It's always kind of been an infinite or something that can fluctuate. You know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
But I don't know. Maybe in the future, all these kinds of... What I'm thinking is all these kinds of arguments and debates might be more frivolous, where, I don't know, we'll come up with different ways to exchange value. And as far as like government and whatnot, like I think it'll become more decentralized. I'm hoping either that or the system is just going to crash and we're going to have some kind of post-apocalyptic scenario.
Yeah, some kind of meltdown, yeah. I'm wondering about this Berkshires thing, how the federal government allows that to happen. They haven't squashed that. I would think they would catch wind of it and say, oh,
I'm sure if it got too big, they would. I'm sure if it became too big of a deal.
Because that's, I mean, you want to talk about decentralization of power.
Yeah.
Local currency. Yikes.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and it could happen. It can happen, and everyone doesn't think it can happen, but it can. It's already happening, and my proof is in the beer. Right? And hear me out, I would love to look and see what Budweiser's profits have been doing over the past decade. But while all these microbrews have been popping up left and right and just skyrocketing in popularity, you go to a local microbrew on the weekend these days and it's elbow to elbow. Even ones that are like tucked away in some shitty industrial park because they're like just getting their feet on the ground.
Yeah, and
it's still loaded with people, and that's all money going right to that local stuff. It's not filtering up anywhere, And
along those same lines too, 3D printing, like as that keeps becoming more popular, as people get 3D printers to make whatever the fuck they want, that's a pretty crazy world we're going to be living in.
Right. Yeah. You can make tons of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you could just design anything you wanted, like, then why go to the store?
Right.
So, I don't know. We're going to live an interesting life. The world is going to change a lot in the next, 50 years or so. So,
yeah.
Be interested to see what happens.
Hey, man. Hopefully, we can be having this conversation at like the 80th mark for you around the bend. 50 years from now, I'll be like, man, what a crazy world this is.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
We said, who would have thought Gary Johnson would have won? What a crazy year.
What would be cool is, they're talking about the convention. Like, it might go down to the Republican convention for them to have to, like, pick the nominee. Wouldn't it be awesome if Ron Paul, came out, like, somehow Ron Paul was the nominee?
Yeah, that would be the best. Yeah.
But, I don't know.
He was someone I was behind.
Yeah, me too, man. I have to say, of all politicians, he's the one who I agreed with the most.
Yeah.
He definitely made the most sense. Because he was the most consistent.
Yeah, I agree. And, then when his son started to run, I was like, Rand Paul, maybe I should hear what this guy has to say. I haven't really paid much attention to him. And then I was like,
he's an asshole.
Yeah, I don't think so. That guy's not for me.
Yeah, he really sold out to the military-industrial complex. And on top of that, like, some of his policies were fucking just the opposite of libertarian. Like, he had one bill that he had either suggested or was backing that would make it a crime if you attended an event where a radical, quote-unquote, radical speech was given, that you could be subject to arrest. Like, just being there, hearing a speech.
Yeah. That doesn't seem very liberal. Doesn't very libertarian at all. Yeah,
so, I don't know, he's a fucker.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks for Ron, too, because he had to, like, support him, because it's his son. I didn't really have a choice, but...
Right.
He wasn't really... wasn't libertarian in my perspective.
Here's my son Rand, vote for him, but don't really. Yeah, that's tough.
Ron Paul has a podcast, by the way, which I recommend.
I've listened to a few things he said on there. I've never listened to a full podcast, but I've listened to like segments about certain things.
They're pretty short, actually. It's only like a 10-minute show or 20 minutes, something like that. Pretty short.
Maybe I have listened to a full one because I've caught him on like Facebook on the news feed and stuff, and I've seen some that the subject line was interesting enough for me to click and see what it was all about. Mm. Yeah, that dude's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully he wins the nomination somehow.
Yeah,
we should go try to be delegates at the convention, at the Republican convention, and like organize some kind of effort on the floor of the wherever it is. It's in Cleveland, I think.
Yeah, man. Light blue striped button up with a bow tie. I'll part my hair proper and play the part.
That'd be fun. When you want to go? That'd be like some real Hunter S. Thompson shit.
Yeah, I'd be interested to check it out. I mean, I almost felt that way about Trump rallies, but then I was like, you know what? I don't know.
I don't want to be seen at a Trump rally.
I don't think. I mean, it's a madness that I'm curious about, but I don't know if I'm curious enough to put myself in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to attend. I don't want to protest. I just don't want to be there.
Right. Well, and even if I was just there to like witness the spectacle, I feel like what I witnessed might encourage me deep down inside to do something or say something.
Well, he was saying at fucking like, did you hear him threatening in Cleveland that there were going to be riots? He was like saying like if they had like tried to steal the nomination from him, there would be riots, which is
No.
Like he is encouraging violence. Like that's the thing. Like he's really crossing that fucking line.
Yeah, he said he would pay for the court fees for anyone that acted out violence against those speaking up at his rallies. I mean, the guy. What was that he said about he could shoot someone in Fifth Avenue or something?
Which is true, man. Like I feel bad because I know Donald Trump supporters and the people thinking about it different ways. There's the people who say, well, don't believe what he says. Like, he's just saying whatever he needs to get elected. And there's people who, like, fucking, like, I don't know. It's like a cult or something where you think he's, like, the savior of mankind. Like, it's really fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And the cult ones, man, he can do no wrong, you know. Like, oh,
exactly.
he's a great
he could shoot
businessman.
somebody, and they would justify it.
He's a
he
great
could do absolutely
businessman.
anything.
That's what we need in this country is a great businessman. How is he great? I don't know. He's failed quite a few businesses. He's great at convincing people that he's great at business, and then they go along with it.
You know what's funny is I've gone to New York. I've gone to Manhattan a few times in the last couple months, and right on the I think it's the Hudson River Parkway. He sponsored part of the highway to have it named after him. So you'll go down the highway and be like, Donald J. Trump, and like this big sign. And there's part of it where somebody put up a little sign underneath that says micro penis.
And that's something he's pretty sensitive about.
Yeah, the whole hands thing.
Yeah.
You see that in the John Oliver where he was like tracing his hand and mailing it to that person?
Yep.
That's fucking weird.
Unreal. Well, he does have a fragile ego. I mean, if you look at a lot of the stuff that he put his name behind in businesses, it was always like it had to have his face just slammed right in the middle of whatever it was. Trump vodka. Big T, big Trump face, everything. Trump mortgages, Trump Tower in, what was it, Chicago or some shit, where it's like they just passed an ordinance that buildings cannot have a sign above a certain size because he put one that was so friggin' huge that it's just this like eyesore monstrosity, just says Trump. Okay.
Well, there was one night when he won a bunch of states, and like they give those press conferences or rallies or whatever after the elections are over, after the voting is done, and he fucking like he was getting criticized by Rubio or Romney or somebody about how all these different businesses that he had went out of business, went bankrupt. So he fucking like displayed them all. He like dragged them all out, like all these defunct things to like show that they still existed. Like, here's my Trump steaks, here's my Trump water, here's my Trump magazine. But like, if you fucking Google Trump magazine, there's no website, there's no like record of this existing. No. It's the fucking he's totally P.T. Barnum, like just a complete fucking showman.
Oh yeah, yeah. Jack LaRose actually showed me an interesting documentary.
Yeah, I saw it too.
Yeah, it's about Trump's from the 90s.
Yeah. It's actually pretty decent.
He is amazing. You got to give it to him. He's a hell of a showman, and he's great at manipulating the media.
One thing I wonder about too, because I've actually listened to his I've listened to like an audio version of his biography. It's not Art of the Deal. It's like the one that he did after that. And he went totally fucking bankrupt like in the early 90s. He went like he was like $90 billion in debt or something crazy. It's like something fucking totally nuts. Maybe that's the wrong figure, but he went really bankrupt. And he said he had to walk to like Citibank at like 3:00 in the morning when it was raining to like go explain himself or like beg for forgiveness like before all these fucking bankers, international bankers. So like, I'm always suspicious of him because of that too. Like, who does he owe favors to?
Right.
What is he willing to do?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he didn't start out. He talks about being this self-made man, but didn't he start out with money from his dad? Wasn't his dad like a slum lord in New York or some shit like that?
You want to get back to government helping him too. Like he's fucking he's used like eminent domain laws and stuff to like kick people out of their houses and shit so he could build a casino,
Yeah. Well, and there's another thing that didn't do well. His casino in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
That was a big flop.
Yeah.
Just like his water and his steaks.
Yeah, I mean, he totally, like, I know he was really kind of successful in the 80s, right? And then, like, it just kind of nosedived, I think, in the 90s. And then that show kind of resurrected his whole persona.
I feel like since that, he just got in the public eye, and that's been the only thing keeping him afloat is just being relevant.
Right.
If you took away his relevance, I don't know if he would have anything. I mean, you always find something. At the very least, he knows that money isn't real, so it's easily manipulated, and he knows how to manipulate it.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't go 90 billion into debt and then be a decade later and be like, "No, I'm good. I'm pretty wealthy." You need to know how to do some shiesty shit to make that happen. It's a huge figure.
Well, it might not have been that much. Might have been like 90 million. I forget. It's something like that. But on top of that, nobody really knows even how much money the guy has. Like, he says it's 10 billion, but like, I don't know. It's kind of all they say. Like, he's really, because he's still really leveraged in a lot of ways. He has a lot of debt still, so it's really sort of, you know, does he have $5 billion? Does he have $2? Like, nobody really knows. He's just kind of this fucking huckster, you know.
Well, and I mean, really, as far as him as a presidential candidate, it's kind of one of those things like, who gives a shit how much money he has? Can he be a decent president? You know?
Well, that was a weird thing that John Oliver brought up, that he isn't really even funding his campaign. He's loaning his campaign money so that he can, like, raise money in the future and then, like, take back the money that he's loaned to the campaign.
Clever.
Yeah.
Again, he knows how to manipulate money.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying he's not smart. I just think I'm not certain about the kind of dystopia that we're going to be living in next year.
Oh, yeah. Don't mistake this bit of credit I give him as being my support. I don't support that guy at all. He's not a good person.
I concur. So I'm going to register as a Democrat, vote for Bernie, and then I'm going to go vote for Gary Johnson or whoever the Libertarian candidate is. Although the fucking McAfee guy, like that crazy McAfee dude, is running for the Libertarian ticket too. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
Well, I think we're going to wrap up the show here. Do you have any final thoughts to share with the listeners?
Not particularly, no.
Well, how do you think I should celebrate my 30th birthday? I'm gonna be out with some friends tonight. What do you think I should do?
Where are you going? Like, what area?
Well, it's I'm going out with Paul because he's getting married, so I have to get fitted for a tux. Ah. So Jack and Trevor are going to go out too because they're also in his wedding party.
Yeah.
So be out in like Waterford, New London. I think 33 Golden would be a good spot. You ever been there?
That's not bad.
Oh. Actually, it's pretty warm too. I wonder if that tiki bar place is open.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the New London stuff. New London is not like the most hoppin' nightlife area.
It's not that bad actually. There's a thriving hipster community there. Yeah. Like Oasis. You ever been to Oasis?
No. Is that what's Oasis?
It's right on Bank Street. It's at like the very end of Bank Street.
I don't think I have.
You should go.
I mean, they've got the music hall.
Yeah.
What the fuck what is that place called? They always got the punk shows and the metal shows.
Oh, LNG.
Yeah, the LNG, that's it.
Dude, that's where I saw my first concert ever. I saw Michael Graves from the Misfits there.
Nice. It's an awesome, tiny little concert hall.
Yeah, maybe we'll go there. Gotta do something. Gonna be an old man in 2 days. So
Party on, Steve.
Party on, Sezmo. All right, well, thank you folks for listening to the show. Please do follow us on Twitter. Please do like us on Facebook. And until next time.